Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all doing? We've been sitting for a while. Do you mind if we stand and stretch? If you can, stand, stretch a little bit. If you can't, it's understandable, but if you can, please stretch. I can see Prof stretching. Yes, you could please now and take your seats. Thank you so very much. You could kindly take your seats. Our session is on governance, institutions, and regional coordination. 5 states, 1 vision. Our goal is to make a case for institutional coordination and policy alignment for regional development. I want to start by appreciating the Southeast Development Commission for the incredible events they've put together. From the protocol arrangements to security, to media, to technical, to facility management. I've used both the VIP toilet and the regular toilet, always well clean. And those are the tiny details that matter. And also for the impressive event yesterday. So if you could put your hands together for the Southeast Development Commission and their partners for putting this together. If you could also, Mr. Chairman and the MD CEO, I want to especially recognize my own mentor who has poured into us in the person of His Honor, Mr. Oseloka H. Obaze, a man without whose mentorship we will not be doing what we are doing here today. Apart from the impressive work he has done, I believe that one of his greatest gifts to Nigeria is the many young people he has unleashed on Nigeria. And I'm proud to be one of them. I celebrate you, sir, every day. There are many of us he's personally trained. He's personally trained a couple of young people and mentored us. I used to watch him do a lot of things around governance. Now it's my pleasure that this is the first time he's seated and he's going to watch his students do 1 or 2 things around governance. So thank you so very much, sir, and God bless you for the work you do. Our chief discussant is Professor Solo Chukwulobelu. Professor Solo Chukwulobelu is the secretary to the government of Anambra State. But he's beyond a public policy wonk. Professor Solo is a distinguished scholar in financial economics. He brings with him over 28 years of experience teaching and researching in UK universities. His core specialization is on capital markets. Professor Solo has also served as the Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget, where he played a key role in shaping fiscal policy and development planning. Professor Solo combines deep academic insight with hands-on public sector experience in driving economic reform. And it's my pleasure to welcome Prof to come take a seat for the conversation. Could you please put your hands together as he comes? We are dealing with 5 states, 95 local government areas. We have 43 Federal House of Representatives seats. Yes, sir, please, thank you. We have 130 State House of Assembly seats, and we have a combined of 1,798 political wards with their councillors altogether. To assist our 5 governors in making their policy. These numbers are important because we are talking about regional coordination, 5 states, 1 vision. These 5 governors who were here yesterday are supported by 126 commissioners and then a myriad of other political appointees. This year, our 5 states have a combined budget of 5.6 trillion naira. By 2050, which is what we are envisioning, it is expected that these 5 states, if our budgets grow at 12%, would have had a cumulative spend of around 425 trillion naira. So what we are discussing today is how we can put resources together. These different lawmakers, I've mentioned that there are 43 House of Representatives, 9 senators, 126 commissioners, 130 State House of Assembly members, and then the list goes on. So Prof will help us continue this conversation, but especially to tell us how these 5 states can have one vision and how they can coordinate better amongst each other for regional development. Prof, you are welcome to the microphone.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start by thanking the CEO and Managing Director of Southeast Development Commission and the board for inviting me to do the paper on 5 states, one vision, institutional coordination, and policy alignment for the region. Like I've been introduced, I'm the Secretary to Anambra State Government. And everyone knows that SAGs do not come and do presentations like this without having some clearance. So I must say that I had to seek that clearance to do this paper. There should actually be, who is projecting it? Please, can you project it? Because what we have here is, we have 5 states which at various times have actually crafted their own visions. If I take my own state, back in November 2019, the former governor of Anambra State, Chief Dr. Willie Obiano, set up a 58-man committee to vision Anambra till the year 2070. And that was led by the current governor at the time. The MD of the Southeast Development Commission, Mark Okoye, was the assistant secretary to that committee, and I was the secretary. And we set about visioning Anambra until 2070. Since then, there have been also other states, the other 5 states, the other 4 states have also visioned their own state far into the future. So here we are, having to, if you like, charge SEDC to now craft one vision that covers the whole of the region. It is a very tough order. But what I've tried to do is to actually look at the development, if you like, visions of these 5 states and see whether they actually align or diverge. Because if they align, then we don't have a problem. If there are some convergence, then don't have a problem. But if they diverge substantially, then SEDC would have to try and get a vision that is bought in by the 5 states. And I think this is what we are doing here today. So, the case for, if you like, regional integration or coordination cannot be oversized. If you go through the literature, You find out the fine literature on why there should be policy coordination, there should be regional integration, and the rest of them. But having sat through most of the presentations today, I realized that the functions of SEDC must be such that they're either trying to coordinate and harmonize the various areas that the state governments are already doing. Because essentially, they are not going to be able to ask the state governors not to do what they've been elected to do. Because the state governors are the ones that will go back to the electorate after 4 years and essentially present their scorecard and say this is what we have done and therefore deserve to be re-elected. But I'm happy because, like some people have said, the 5 governors, 4 were present here yesterday, 1 represented. And I take a quote from my own governor. The governor noted that the gathering today, that was yesterday, represented a departure from the fragmented efforts of the past. He signaled that the era of going it alone is over. And he went further to say, today is history in the making. What we have yearned for decades is finally taking shape. I can say with confidence that the governors in the region are now more united than ever. And I think we need to clap for the 5 governors. But also note that my own governor also enjoined SEDC to keep it simple, to focus on a few areas. And I think he mentioned 3 places. Regional security with the funding challenges. If you like, the capital, the infrastructure, the heavy infrastructure areas, the highways and the rest of them, as well as the gas pipeline every person has talked about. But finally, he said the regional coordination, So essentially, what we therefore have to ask ourselves, what would be the areas of focus for SEDC in order to ensure that it does not begin to, if you like, supplant the 5 state governors? A lot of the discussions I've had today, whether it is on climate change, the last person that presented, or whether it was on human capital development that I had, or whether it's on SME and the rest of them. These are what every state government is actually pursuing. If you take every paper that has been presented here, go through the annual budget of the 5 state governments, go through their, if you like, 20, 25, 50-year development plan. You have them captured there. Is that true or not? True. So the challenge is, how do we begin to coordinate? The reasons for coordinations are not far-fetched. Why must we collaborate? Why must there be a need to ensure that there is no, if you like, misalignment of efforts? Regions are the unit of global competition these days. The scale, the economies of scale, most investors that want to invest, we talk about the power projects. The power projects, very often the viable ones are very large in scale. And consequently, it becomes necessary that there is a bit of, if you like, regional integrated markets. Previously, in the old Eastern region, the Oji River power plant supplied the old eastern region. But now we are thinking about embedded powers. But the truth is that the commercially viable power projects need to go across state boundaries for them to be viable. There are also infrastructures that need to be transported across state boundaries. The energy grids and transportation corridors that must cut across, if you like, state boundaries. If we don't do this, there will be inefficiency, fragmentation, and the rest of them. But we also have a reason for having to, if you like, coordinate. Look at politics in the Southeast. We have, if you like, the challenge of asynchronous politics. Anambra and Imo have off-season governorship election. Anambra just finished its governorship election in November. The second tenure of my governor will be starting in March, okay? And then there is the general election for the other states. But Imo State, its own election will be when? November next year, rather than February or March, as it were. And then they get inaugurated. The other three states will then join the general something. So what you have here is that if there is no policy coordination, then this misalignment in our political timelines may also affect some of the projects that SEDC may want to pursue. But in addition to that, you have one governor leaves, another one comes. If certain projects are not, if you like, jointly owned, the incoming one might abandon it, and so on and so forth. Then I think when I had the managing director speak in the morning, the issue of cost fragmentation and the ease of doing business. Now he cited the example of land acquisition taking probably a few weeks in one state and probably several months in the other states, or even different legal framework and the rest of them. And this is where, if you like, the commission should be trying to put effort in ensuring that there is all this policy alignment. Obviously, the politics of politics and policy making must be navigated very carefully. We in Anambra, we normally say that we cannot stay in Oka and decide what will happen probably in Idemili North or so. So at the same time, we must be very careful not to burden SEDC with those things that are best done by the state government. So it is very important, therefore, that SEDC begins to look at where it can essentially add value in terms of, if you like, regional development in order to unleash all the potentials that the region has. But very often when I sit down to reflect on some of these things, now we have 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria. If you come to the Southeast, because for me, there has to begin to be a kind of a shift in mindset, a very important shift in mindset. If you ask someone from the West, the Southwest, first and foremost, he would say he's what? A Yoruba person. Before he even says, I'm from Lagos, or from Oyo, or from Oshu, many of them may not even know the state they come from. But ask someone from the Southeast, what is the first response? I'm from Imo. I'm from Anambra. And I'm from Abia. Is that not how we respond? Please, is that not how we respond? Do you not think that this creates a kind of mental blockage in what we are trying to even get SEDC to do? I'm asking this question because it's very important that we begin to shift from that. I look at some regional or some projects that maybe state governments are doing today. We may begin to ask the question, can some of them be regionalized? Can some of these projects be regionalized? Someone mentioned in the morning about I think it was Ijoma, the biggest industrial harbor in the southeast is at Onitsha. Now, Anambra seems to own it. But why shouldn't it be owned by the southeast? Because the states, the companies there cut across the region, isn't it? And all the value chains. And therefore, what I'm saying is this. The Southeast, Mark and his colleagues, you have a big challenge. In the morning, Professor Wu said, go and acquire all the abandoned projects, or some of them, and prioritize it. What I would want to say, probably not in contradiction to that, is to begin to actually look at our development plans across the 5 regions and begin to see those ones that neatly fit into regional aspirations and get the governors to buy into that and then start from there. That is part of this coordination, I think, that can happen. It saves money for the states, it makes things work faster, and then we begin to see the Southeast as our home. So, if I wanted to live initially I wanted to live in Enugu, but at some point I began to feel, I better go to Anambra and settle down when I came back from UK. But it's very important that we begin to recreate this Abmonibo, and that this region is part of us, is all of us. If we do that, then the coordination becomes easy to deal with. A lot of what I wanted to say, they're projecting it now. I'm happy they're projecting it because I wanted to actually go through this so that you can see both the challenges of coordination and the rest of that. Can you go back from the beginning, please? Go back to the beginning. Now, this is where I wanted to start. Now, can you carry on? Now, the case for Southeast to have, what we have is the united, and we have one shared aspiration for a peaceful, secured, and globally competitive economy. Each state still retains its independence, and we have all crafted our visions. Can you carry on? Now, if this is what we actually want to do, our shared aspiration is a peaceful, secure, economically vibrant region. Because I've done a mapping of the visions of the various states, and I could see that there are common things. So we don't have conflicting. Rather, we have complementary visions. Carry on. Okay. So if you take Abia is emphasizing SMEs, manufacturing value chain, human capital development. If you take Anambra, we have actually recrafted our vision to build a prosperous, livable, smart mega city, a preferred destination to live, work, learn, invest, relax, and enjoy. But it's a vision driven by, if you like, private sector leadership, export competitiveness, and technology adoption. Can you move on? Move on. Now, what I've done is to skim through all the visions of the 5 states and see where we share common. Go very quickly. Now, that's the convergence. And that makes life easy for SEDC. Because of this convergence, every state wants economic prosperity. All are emphasizing governance reforms, inclusive growth, long-term orientation, and the rest of them. So there is a convergence here. But in that convergence, there has to also be a recognition that some of the states will still want to assert their own independence. So SEDC must tread to ensure to discover where it's facing. Can you move on? Now, look at from competition to specialization. This is the metrics alignment. Now, Abia, innovation and SMEs. Anambra, I should have actually added commerce, industrialization, and export. But the vision of the state today is to move Anambra from importation to manufacturing to exportation. And that's why I've captured it in that way. Ebony obviously is agriculture and the rest of them. So you begin to ask yourself, where does SEDC come, given all these, if you like, vision alignment in terms of what each state wants to do? Regional innovation and manufacturing hub. That's what you must think. Regional industrial and export engine. Okay? Anambra is building AMIC, Anambra Mixed Use Industrial City. Sitting on about, is it 10 hectares or 10,000, 5,000 hectares of land. Is it going to just be for the Anambra? No. Everyone is invited. Come and take space there. Okay? Enugu has become our eternal capital. So the city is developing beautifully and the rest of them becomes a service hub. And the name of regional stability and governance anchor. So it's very important that in mapping out this, SEDC finds where it has the value, as it were. My friend, can you move fast? Yeah. So, I've already touched on this, why the need for regional cooperation. Move on. Let me just stop there because there's something I put there on climate resilience. We just had a presentation on climate issues. I've been in government now in Anambra for almost 12 years. And this has been a major, major problem. We have 960 active erosion sites. 960. If you put all Anambra state budget into controlling the erosion, we won't solve that. So, what can SEDC do in those regards to ensure that we begin to, some of the major challenges that they can be taken up at regional level? I think the last speaker said new map was started for Abia. New map was started for 5 states. I think I signed the document, but other states jumped in. But that's Nigeria for you. A new map now is already finished, and states cannot, from budgetary provision, cover some of these things. I'm happy that UNDP is already stepping in to help in that direction. Can you move on? Okay, I've already spoken on this because once you have election cycles that are not aligned, it also poses a lot of problems. We in Anambra, we've had our own election last year. Sometime next year, I three other states will have, and then much later in the year, Imo will also have its own election. If leadership changes across party line, then long-term regional projects can be derailed. And sometimes, I'm happy that all the governors are coming back for their second terms. So projects initiated and started now would still have the same political backing for some 4 or 5 years. But quite often it's important that you don't commence a project that is likely to not to be taken to, if you like, point of no return. Because if you did that, it may fall to political changes. Can you move on? Move on. Okay. The cause of fragmentation, I've already mentioned things about here. And what this does is to reinforce the need for regional coordination. Carry on. Move fast. Now, when I was writing this, I actually reflected. Are the states expected to fund these regional projects when they're already struggling to have budget to do their own budget? And in the end, I felt maybe SEDC at some point must begin to think in terms of what we are thinking in Anambra, ADIC. Mark, you were championing ADIC, Anambra Development and Investment Corporation, almost like a funding arm, because it is very important that a lot of these dreams we have here, SEDC, do this, do that, smart school, and the rest of them. The governors are not going to give you their budget. They're not going to devote their budget to you. And therefore, funding becomes a very serious issue. I heard my governor saying that a lot of these projects must be funded from the federal government and the private sector. So the challenge for the board is to ensure that the one Nkelu line of federal government comes and then mobilize the private sector to raise the capital where it is needed. Because fiscal capacity for most states is actually, I think most states are running budget deficit. Can you carry on? Project who is doing this? Okay. Now, all these are essentially saying there is a need for us to begin to deal with issues of, if you like, discretionary thing and begin to have rule-based coordination. How do we ensure that when things have been agreed, it will go across the 5 states? There has to be alignment in regulation. There has to be a alignment in, if you like, in enforcement, as it were. But the danger is you have to be mindful of stripping states of their own autonomy, because we cannot create SEDC as the 6th government, as it were. Can you? Now, locking in the vision. I'm saying here that the Southeast does not suffer from a shortage of ideas. The central challenge is coordination rooted in trust and institutional continuity. And I'm happy that the Southeast governors we have today have been around for quite a long time, if I may say. I was commissioner for economic planning and development in 2014. 2015, I became SAG, and I can see, I recall the period between 2015 2016 for our governors at the time to even agree to meet. But today, we are very lucky in the region that there is now a shared, if you like, vision by the governors. Ultimately, albeit that that we must also share the risk, share the rules, and also share accountabilities. We must share the risk and the benefits. And we must, as I said at some point, begin to move our mindset back to we are Igbos and away from Mbonyi Anambra, Mbonyi Imo, Mbonyi Obenyi. So that if Mbonyi Anambra wants to take, or a consortium of Igbo people wants to take a moribund federal government project and turn it into something viable. Onitsha Seaport is a case in point. I think, Madam Dozier, you guys can't wait to see that seaport come to life. Is that the kind of project that, I know it has been concessioned, and part of what Doc did is, it was concession to somebody who is not from the region where the port is, and all manner of problems. But this is a port for the region. So, please, what I'm actually here, because the governors, my governor in particular, he made most of the points when I told him yesterday I was presenting and he asked me, he said, okay. So I had to take my time to read his own something, because once the master has spoken, the student should shut up, as it were. But I hope I've been able to add some, these are just sharing some of my own thoughts into what I've been asked to do. Thank you.
You can make that louder. Thank you so very much, Prof, for that erudite presentation. And we will take a couple of questions, but not to keep you standing, please sit. All right, if you want to. In summary of what we heard, Prof talked about, made the case for regional integration. You also re-echoed the sentiments of your governor, Professor Chukwuma Soludo. And then you asked a SDC to put in effort to regional coordination. And I will start asking the first question, just to flesh out that thought. Yes, you could. Whatever format is most convenient for you, sir. Beautiful. So we have 5 state governors, and we're impressed that through their own volition and then the work of SEDC, they are able to come together, and we've provided that platform. But these governors are supported by 126 commissioners. All right? At the legislative side of things, we have 15 senators. We have 143 Federal House of Reps members who are doing their individual community empowerment schemes. I've mentioned already that this year, the 5 states will be executing a combined budget of 5.6 trillion. So we understand the need for ownership, but you made a very important point that Southeast does not suffer from a shortage of ideas, that the central challenge has been coordination rooted in trust and institutional continuity. Will you be at least openly committing, all right? I will not put you on the spot, but I'm asking, would you be openly committing, or what do you think of the idea about SEDC holding a similar event for the commissioners? Then the governor talked about yesterday about security, which will, of course, require different 5 states to have legislative input. Perhaps something close for also state lawmakers to at least interact. I know you guys see each other at the airports, you greet at funerals, you see at other social events, but maybe perhaps SEDC can also provide that further platform for interaction so that the issue of coordination can also be further pursued. What are your thoughts on those?
Okay. If I understand you clearly, should SCDC, if you like, invite these other policy makers or policy implementers, commissioners, legislators across local government to begin to, if you like, talk to each other and get them to understand where the commission is going. Is that the question?
Yes, and also perhaps do joint projects and joint project ownership.
It's very important that people sing from the same hymn sheet. But what you find is that the instrument of doing that, before we create something that, rather than align, misaligns, the governors have Southeast Governors Forum, and the SEDC should become, if you like, the instrument of that coordination, because we talk about policy coordination. Who does the coordination? The way I conceive it, because like I said, I've been here long enough. I remember the days of Seredek or so. Seredek. Bat Naji, Chris Okoya and the rest of them. I represented Anambra on that. But it never flew because they were supplanting, they were trying, they didn't have the buy-in of the governors. So all I'm trying to say is this. The Southeast Governor, SEDC, must work hand in glove with the Southeast Governors Forum. Yesterday, I understand all of them were here because of the, if you like, the diplomatic work, very intelligent people that they had gone around to have a buy-in. Once you start calling commissioners, legislators, and the rest of them, and by the way, at the national level, they also have their National Council on Education, National Council of this, you begin to have fragmentation. So I think SEDC and the board, I'm happy that this is, if you like, a consultative forum to begin to hear people, and then they'll go back and fashion not just the vision, but how that vision must be coordinated and delivered. I think it's better to wait until their final document, which I understand will come out in, is it 6 weeks' time? 8 weeks' time. I think they're taking on board everything that is being said here, but please, it's very important that to understand policy coordination, somebody must do it. What's the institutional mechanism for doing that? And I'm beginning to feel that SCDC probably working with the DG, Southeast Governors Forum, who should be coordinating with the governors, and then these things come back to the states for, if you like, for dissemination. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Prof. At this point, we'll open up to questions. If you have questions, could you please signify by raising your hands? While we're doing that, could the ushers or protocol make sure that microphones are at the aisles close to where the people are? Where are the microphones? So I will prioritize people who have not spoken before, and then I will also come back to perhaps people who have compelling needs. So let's start from here. Chief, yes, please, go ahead, sir. Okay. The man standing.
Thank you, Coordinator. I greet everyone. Prof, I very much appreciate your emphasis on the relationship between SEDC and states that is not going to be competitive but complementary. SEDC is not an alternative state government. That must be understood clearly. Otherwise, conflict will arise. I also appreciate your emphasis on coordination, which really is the hallmark of anything governance or public administration, Mary Parker Follett summed it all by saying that all governance, all politics, all development is coordination. Those principles are very important in governance, and particularly in development. Now, since the 2 days or 3 now we are here, something has been recurring to me, and I have asked, what is the ideological anchor of 2050 projection, vision of SEDC? And also, what has been the anchor of development planning of government, federal government, state governments in the past in Nigeria? And I realize it is still the same old capitalist orientation, capitalist anchor. What is the guarantee that there is not going to be revolutionary thinking between now and 2050 and 2070, as some states already have, in Africa, African development? Remember, the trap we are in and about corruption is...
If you could please summarize
excuse
in
me,
the next 15 seconds.
I'm coming.
So that we can take other. Thank you, sir.
Corruption is the bane of Nigeria's, Africa's development. If we can get rid of it, we will move faster and rescue our generations to come. Therefore, I advocate for SDDC in its ideological engagement and relationship with the states to pull through centralist ideology, a little to the left and a little to the right. And that is really what will make it very pragmatic. Africa is not going to be static. Southeast is not going to be static. I bet you before 2050, there will be revolutionary actions.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. God bless you. Thank you so very much, sir. We will keep our limits, all the comments and remarks or questions to 1 minute, and then we could now maybe extend to 2 minutes per contributor. I will implore you to keep your comments and contributions relevant to the subjects being discussed. If it is outside of that scope, maybe we can use this. You want to take? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Sorry, we'll come back to you because you raised something very important. You know, sometimes when you prepare these things, you try to get some catchy points or phrases that convey the essence of what you are trying to say. Now, every person here, if you Google what is policy coordination and that kind of thing, you see that. But in the context of what we're actually doing here today, I had to paraphrase some of those things. And I made the point, policy coordination is a deliberate, that word deliberate, I actually underlined it, alignment of policies, rules, implementation actions across the 5 state governments to achieve outcomes that no one single government can efficiently deliver alone. So what I'm trying to say here, and it was very deliberate in the way I took that, those things that a government can achieve alone on its own, if you try to go there, you are pushing it to lose its autonomy. Now, very important. Mark and I go back a long way, and we keep talking, we keep chatting. I think last week we were in Abuja, we chatted a lot and the rest of them. And we keep crossing ideas. crossing ideas, as it were. And for me, coordination, if I see, even at a at the state level, I've been at executive council meeting. Commissioner for Works gets up to present a memo. And there is part of it that has to do with power or water. And the Commissioner for Works rises to say, I'm not aware of this. That memo is dead on arrival. At that very simple level. Okay? At that very simple level. Because what is going to do have material impact on that. I mean, if it was something he was going to do alone without any other ministry getting involved, then he can do that. But rarely would you find where there is no interministerial, some overlapping. But at the regional level, what I'm trying to suggest, and Mark and I and some of us have talked about this, those things that state government can efficiently and effectively do on their own. It's very important that you don't go there, or you begin to push them to lose autonomy. And I don't think they will like it. Do you think they will like it? They won't. So let's be realistic about it. And I think that's the point somebody made, that politics and policy making must shake hands. Aria, politics and policy making must shake hands. If we don't do that, we create problems when it shouldn't arise, as it were. But for me, I'm happy that this is building, dreaming together. It's like the Vision 2070 we did. Took time, built it up, consulted widely, and in the end, some of you that come to Anambra and say, wow, what you see in Anambra is the first 4 years of Vision 2070. I can tell you that. So when you have drafted this Vision 2050, the only thing is that it will expire before Anambra own expires. You are ending in 50, but Anambra is taking theirs to 70. But I'm sure there will be revisions along the way, as it were. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Prof. Yes, please introduce yourself and keep it under 2 minutes and relevant to the topic being discussed.
Hello, my name is Honorable Osito Opara. I'm an investment banker by profession. I want to give my perspective, having been in the public sector as a two-time local government chairman, and having been in the private sector, owning a stockbroking firm. I also worked in Abuja Investment Company as the chairman of investment committee. I've listened carefully to everybody. I think all of us are making sense. But I want to suggest that if we don't take time, we will end up carrying everything at the same time and landing it in the agenda of SEDC. I want to align with your very last comments here. Anything that the states can deliver on their own should be left to the states. SEDC should be more of a coordinating, a clearinghouse for policy, targets, and objectives for the long run. However, SEDC is a development organization, it's a development commission. It should embark on some projects that are mega, what I call mega, in line with what Professor Soludo professed yesterday. To me, I want to pinpoint three in particular. There should be a transportation system anchored mostly on railways.
Number two.
Hold on railways.
You have to stay within
but
time.
that railway must enter to the sea. It must empty into the sea. That is number one. Then number two, the gas master plan is very, very important for our industrialization. If we don't get that, we will not achieve our objective. Then power, which I see as a low-hanging fruit, aligning with the governor of Abia State. Geometrics is there. It's a matter of scaling it up, bringing more revenue, and you feed all the other states in the zone. If they can do this in the next 10 to 15 years, I can tell you Southeast will be developed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. God bless you. We would love to implore us to keep it under 2 minutes. If you can, once a signal is given, please help us because there are other things on the queue. If you could please come over to, yes, okay, since you are closer, pass the microphone to the young person, and perhaps my bias is also with young people so that he can make his contribution.
Thank you very much. My name is Kasmir Namani. I work with the Commonwealth. So that is also International Development Organization as well. Thank you, Prof, for a wonderful presentation and the board of Southeast Development Commission. But one thing I want to understand, want the board to share to me is about, I'm looking forward to see the theory of change for this Southeast Development Commission. Because if you are designing any development, there will be a theory of change. Where what you are trying to, after designing it, you have to cascade it to the grassroots to affect life and change lives. So in both cases, what August just said, we are not looking at theory of change where we are looking at South Development Commission to come and start doing solar projects in the community or doing load in the community. As he said, we want a genetic project that are impactful. As he said, gas pipeline, we are talking about anode gas, open gas as well. So this is what we can need to industrialize. So I'm looking forward to see the theory of change so I can be impactful to the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much for that. We'll come back to you. There is a man on the chief, Chibuzo Korike. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, moderator, and the very distinguished Prof. My name is Dr. Chibuzo Okereke. Prof, what I get from this governance framework, we cannot deliver this without having a legal framework. The appearance of the governors for symbolic commitment to this is very critical, but that will not be enough, especially when you know that politics and policy will need to shake hands. And to deliver a legal framework that can have regional coverage, we need what I propose as Southeast Cooperative Development Convention, a kind of treaty, interstate treaty that will be signed for commitment on the development, on the regional level development. And already item 60A of the second schedule to our constitution speaks to cooperation, planning, data for economic development. So this is where within the constitutional framework. So you need the state assemblies to domesticate this legal framework to have a binding commitment that regional level development strategy will be committed to by the state to pursue and coordinated by the Southeast Development Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Prof, before you answer that, there is a question from, or a comment from this part of the aisle. Yes, please go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Obaro Osa. I work for Bank of Industry, and I'm excited being here. And we are developing a partnership with SEDC, and we hope we could conclude that before end of this quarter. But I have 3 comments, Prof. The first is that since yesterday, I don't think any of the presenters reflected on the economic power of the Southeast before the Civil War. The great Mike Okpara and Co., what did they do to run Southeast? I think they ran on the palm oil. And I think that the land we have in the Southeast is very, very viable to plant palm trees. And palm trees are international commodities. where you can actually have exports. So some of those plantations were planted in the 50s and 60s. They need to be revived. There should be a very low-hanging fruit that can be tapped quickly. A tree planting campaign using the palms as an exercise, so that you can have processing plants and you can have exports from different states to create revenue for the entire region. My second comment revolves on partnership. All the conversations since yesterday, clearly, SEDC, the 5 states of the Southeast, maybe the federal government, they need to have other partners, locally, internationally, at the policy level, and in fact, contiguous states, like Rivers, like Delta, to work with, to develop the Southeast. So I think partnership and collaboration should be very deep in developing the framework for moving the Southeast from point A to point B, where everybody can actually have a better standard of living. My last comment we have to do with impact measurement. There should be an impact measurement framework that SEDC has to develop and apply to analyze and measure impact on an annual basis. So such framework will help in measuring how far we are going. Thank you.
Thanks for the questions. I think in my presentation I made reference to the fact that it is important that SEDC focuses on some key regional deliverables. It was very important, and most of them are actually enablers of, if you like, rapid and sustainable economic development. I mentioned regional security, which my governor also reiterated yesterday. This super interstate infrastructure with highways and roadways that connect our major cities. I think they can focus on that. And gas pipelines. In the last 1 year, we've had so many different companies come to Anambra, including Shell. They want to build pipelines here, gas pipelines here and there. Some of these things are part of what SEDC can actually take and begin to look at the corridors that you should go pass through. So those key deliverables, I believe, is where they should be focusing on, and if you like, building the enablers that help the private sector to come in and actually do most of the big job. Legal framework. I don't know whether we are trying to change Nigerian constitution, as it were. There is a legal framework that set up SEDC, isn't it? Yeah. And if they stay within that legal framework, I believe all will be well. Economic power, pantries. I must say that many states in the Southeast are rediscovering the importance of palm trees. In Anambra, under the present administration, the governor has distributed more than 1 million palm trees and coconut. Some of us have keyed into that. I think in the last 4 or 5 years, I have actually gone back into palm plantation, abandoned where my father died. But I think a number of states are rediscovering that and are going into that. The challenge actually is to begin to think in terms of processing them into, if you like, exportable commodities. Partnership, yes, they are going to forge partnerships. But let's be very clear. I listened to the presentation by Iko Bosi, Osita Chidoka, that the Southeast is located amidst very if you like, very wealthy neighbors, the South-South and the North-Central, Benue and the rest of them. But the truth of the matter is that you may be living in a neighborhood where you have challenges, even being, if you like, you are looked with suspicion, as it were. So I think let's get our neighborhood, the Southeast, and then obviously Nigeria is an open market for us. They will build the partnerships that become necessary. In the past, we felt that things like security, if they get involved in security, there might be a need to look at where some of our insecurities are coming from. Impact measurement framework. Yes, I will want to believe that by the time they start embarking on some project in time, they will look at the impact. The last reflection I was having really is that Southeast Development Commission, should it also begin to build, if you like, depository of knowledge data, that even when states want to find certain information, they can have it. That is an area I feel they can add value. Masam, my predecessor is right here. There is something I want to share with people here. He left me a handover note in 2015. And there are two last things he wrote there that have guided me over these years. One, government transactions are not done orally. Whatever is not written does not exist. And I remember that every time. But the last one was, remember that SAG stands for Senior Scapegoat. So when things go well, you don't take credit. When things go bad, you are the senior scapegoat. Masam, I salute you. You know? So please, I think it's very important that the board of SCDC reflects on where and how best it can add value to regional policy coordination and development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. In the final round of questions or comments, I will prioritize women and young people to add their voices to the conversation. I see a hand here, but since you're already there, where is the microphone now? Young man, hello. Can you pass on the microphone to, yes. Introduce yourself and make your comments or questions in under 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chemaijem Obodiogu, the COO of Funds. Mine is going to be pretty much kind of question and contribution. First, I'm happy that SEDC organized this kind of stakeholders forum, but I'm also disappointed that our governors are not seated here to listen to us. That being said, back to the topic.
Chima, sorry, they were all here yesterday.
I know.
But you see, the thing is that this is a technical session. All right, go ahead.
So, my question is going to come in. How would SEDC, come in to help the governors or to align with the governors in implementing most of what we have discussed here? Back in 2023, we had the last Governors Forum Southeast was July 2nd, 2024. So many things was discussed there. And the last time they also gathered was in 2023, the Economic Summit of Southeast. There are so many takeaways. And when you look at these takeaways from those summits, I don't think 60% of them have been implemented. And some of the takeaways is collaborating to end insecurity. We are talking about governance and coordination. So how can SEDC come in to help these governors to achieve this? Because we can't be making policies when none have been implemented. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Yes, there is a gentleman over here. Go ahead and ask your question.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dominion Ikechukwu here, the MD CEO, Propagate Technologies. We basically drive digital transformation across different governmental agencies and private sectors. So my question is in twofold. So the first one is, first and foremost, thank you very much for giving a very good divide as to the things that that are within the purview of the NDD of the SEDC to ensure that they don't cross carpet and create friction instead of being a grease, which they are supposed to be among the states. So the first question is this: you mentioned the first thing, which is whatever the states can do on their own should be left to the states. So my question is, what are the other things that can help the SEDC, ensure that the agenda with these states is successful? This is one of them that you mentioned. There are certainly other, loopholes or potholes that the SEDC should avoid to ensure that their very good-willed agenda is, comes to fruition. The second one is, SEDC, yes, is the organization that does, this whole great work, bringing the 5 Southeast states together. But in addition to that, it can also be a door for external agencies and organizations also to bring in development into the region. So what are the policies, in your own words, that the SEDC can, put in place, the vehicles the SEDC can put in place to ensure that this region is very attractive to people on the outside? Like you said, we have very wealthy neighbors, like people in the Niger Delta region, the southwestern region. So how do we make this region attractive in terms of investment opportunities to these other neighbors that we have? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please. Okay, yes, we have. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Nzelo Tibiado from Imo State. Mine is very short. First, the moderator went to the prof. But before I say that, Prof, thanks you so much for the illustration you gave and the speech the lecture you gave here. You went deep down, elementary basis of what SEDC stands for. Coordination, and you went ahead, just like what Abia State Governor said yesterday, by indicating that these 5 arms, that's the 5 states in Southeast, have its own potentials in terms of what God gave them or what they can. They are better in producing. Like today in Imo State, you have the greatest gas deposit in Imo State than any other state in the Southeast. I know West Accra, but at least in the Southeast. What can we do? What can SDS do to encourage them utilize that gas for the benefits of the other states? I know the state governor is doing something on electricity, electricity that will use the gas deposit to make sure that's 24 hours supply in Imo. Just like they are doing in Aba. The Aba power supply can equally tap from Imo to be able to equally electrify or give light to energy to all other parts of Abia State. 2, I want to say this, Mr. Speaker, that you concluded it all. When the moderator was asking you, can SEDC invite commissioners or legislators and all that? It's not possible because, like you rightly said, The head is the governor, is the executive governors. You cannot leave them if they have not bought into you and go to talk about their lieutenants. It's not possible. It won't fly. But I must quickly add here that for the first time in the history of Southeast, and thank God you said you have been in this business for some time, which I agree. But for the first time, I seem to see some seriousness and focus on the state governments of the Southeast. Even the governor of Imo State that was not here, I can tell you, he has bought into this. He has bought into this. And I will feel so proud and hope that they will translate all that being said here to friction. Let it come and pass. We want to see a stronger, economical Southeast. Thank you so much.
So, Prof, you will take the questions and then make your final remarks. You will take the questions that have been put in so far, then you make your final remarks and we draw a curtain to the session.
I think there was a question on how SEDC can help governors to make the region investor attractive. I think that's the whole essence of, or a major part of what we've been talking about. Why is the region not attractive? The issue of insecurity, I think, has largely been dealt with. Because if the region is not secure, nobody will come here. And I think that is becoming dealt with very effectively. Power is a critical enabler. And that is where, this is where many of the state governors are also saying to SEDC to pay attention to. Because by the time you have security, you have power, and you have a manpower, a human capital resource that is very dynamic, hardworking. The region, yes, we're not too many, but 25 or is it 29 million people, with the state, with the region being, if you like, gateway to a number of other places, then the market becomes quite big. So I think very major investors actually think in terms of regions when they want to invest, rather than states. So I'm sure Mark and his board will be mindful of that. And once they can do all those critical enablers, then the region will become attractive. What can SEDC do to help Imo State develop its gas assets? I don't know what they can do to help the state develop its gas asset, but I know Imo is sitting on rich gas and oil something. Last week in Abuja, we were there debating, fighting about oil wells here and there. So they will give Anambra quite a lot of faith as a spirit of brotherhood. But actually they belong to us anyway. But the most important thing is that the state has, the Imo State and quite even Abia and Anambra has rich gas reserves that can power all these mega power station plants we are talking about. If you lay the gas pipelines, if the gas is not there, where would they come? So already Imo is sitting pretty well on that. And I'm sure if they need additional advice or something from SEDC, they should be able to do that. And I think it's time to wrap up. Once again, I thank
Honorable, just a second. Can you give me 1 second? We had a chat and we said we should bring something to your notice. If you permit, hello, can we? Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Sir, a punchline came from your presentation. That punchline was that the regions are units of global competition. Yes, in your presentation. I saw that slide, that regions are units of global competition. And you made one, you highlighted one point, the transition for the 5 Southeast, what they stand for and where they should transit to. As a strategist, that is like a product of a strategic gap analysis. Where are they and where they should be? And in that point, I saw you bring out something that we need to coalesce our narrative. I meet you, you meet me. And you ask me, and I tell you who I am. The next thing I would say is that I am from Anambra State. The man says he's from Imo State. And you made the point that we need to rise above the state divide of identity to be able to coalesce our common southeastern origin. Why? This is so fundamentally important. In the national discourse as we speak, if you listen to the news yesterday, when it was said that the Senate stepped down or didn't pass the electoral bill as Nigerians wanted, and there was a common space, voice response. Nigerians speak with one voice. Now, Nigerians are becoming sensitized that to the extent that if you ask somebody now, you say, I'm a Nigerian, I don't know whether I'm from the southeast, I'm from the northwest, especially in sensitive matters, the Nigerianness is coming in. It's gradually coming up. That should also transcend to the southeast, where we should have this sense of identity as southeasterners. I don't want to see my fellow sister and my fellow brother as from Imo State. I'm from Abia State. The next thing I ask him, which part of Abia State are you from? He tells me for Mbise. The Igbo himself from Hazara. And if I'm not there, if he doesn't call my own village, I will restrain from doing further interaction with him. And the next person now come and say, I'm from where I am from. I will see him as an ally I can. Now, that has pulled us and restrained our integrated development as a region. So one takeaway we should be able to take away is this, that we should transcend that boundary of our states' identities. And we should learn to see each other as Southeasterners, the Igbo man, the Igbo woman, the Igbo fraternity. We should not be ashamed of the Igbo identity. We are proudly sporting on Igbo wears. We wear the red hat, we wear the natural thing. And but when we see each other, we begin to break down those barriers. It does not help us, and it should not help us. So we need to go beyond that to identify that we are Southeasterners with one common language from this area, and we can now own our identity to build our region. Our region is just 5 states. If you join the entire population, we are not so much that we cannot interrelate. If you go to Rwanda today, you cannot tell a Rwandan, are you from Tutsi or you are Hutu? He would say, no, don't talk to me like that. Tell me I'm a Rwandan, because they've overcome the spirit of what happened to them during the genocide. So we too should come out of that thing and address ourselves as the Igbo people, the Igbo race, irrespective of where we come from. You understand? And where we are. And we should be proud of our Igbo names, even wherever we are. This is so important for us to be able to achieve the commonality at the grassroots and help our representatives at the State House of Assembly up to the sub-national governments of the governors. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. I've been asked to recognize the presence of the Managing Director of Afri Invest, Mr. Ike Chioke. You are most welcome, sir. Could we please put a round of applause for him? Yes. We have come to the... Yes, please. Thank you so very much, Prof. You did a wonderful job. This comes to the end of the session on governance, institutions, and regional coordination. 5 states, 1 vision, institutional coordination and policy alignment for regional development. We looked at the governance challenge and how we can build governance mechanisms across state lines and political cycles. I believe that we are living at the cusp of history. This current National Assembly was not the first to ideate about laws concerning SEDC. Many successive National Assemblies tried to do that, but interestingly, the time is now and the law has been signed. This is also not the first time Igbos began to clamor for an organization like this. But now we have one. Also, there is now a strong indication from the political class that there is no way we can move forward with division. We listened carefully to the 4 Southeast governors yesterday and the representative of that of Imo State. I think that the key takeaway is that they are ready for collaboration. And now the task is left with SEDC and there are many other partners to create that platform for coordination and for collaboration. My name is Chima Christian. I sincerely believe that Africa's morning is at hand.